All right, let's just start by saying forget everything you think you know about American politics. Seriously, because the political world of the late 19th century, it was a completely different universe. I'm talking intense passion, razor-sharp ideological divides, and voter turnout that was just through the roof. It was this whole lost world that honestly vanished almost overnight. So the big question is, what happened to it? I mean, back in the 19th century, political parties were fiercely ideological. Their platforms, that was everything. And loyalty to your party was ironclad. People showed up to vote in massive numbers. I mean, huge numbers. Because they believed the stakes were incredibly high. Now, compare that to today. You've got fuzzy party platforms, a huge focus on candidate personalities, and, the rise of the independent voter. The two worlds, they just couldn't be more different. It's like night and day. So, what was the engine driving all this political intensity? I mean, what was fueling this fire? And maybe even more mysteriously, how could a system that literally defined American life for decades just poof, disappear? How did that pave the way for the politics we know today? That's the puzzle we're going to try and solve here. Okay, so let's get into it. You might think the big divide was about money, right? Or class, or maybe the classic North versus South thing. But the source material for this whole explainer, it suggests something much, much deeper. It points to an idea that a lot of historians just completely missed. It argues the real battle lines weren't economic at all. They were religious. And this right here, this is the core idea of our whole discussion. Politics wasn't just politics. No. It was basically a proxy war between two fundamentally opposed ways of seeing the world, God, and society. Every single major issue, from the economy all the way down to your personal life, was seen through this religious lens. So on one side, you had a group called the Pietists. For them, salvation was this deeply personal, really emotional experience. But here's the crucial part. They believed it was society's job, using the power of the government to help save people from themselves. They wanted to stamp out sin, whether that meant banning alcohol or enforcing strict Sunday blue laws. And then, on the complete other side, you had the liturgicals. Now, this group was mostly made up of Catholics and more conservative Lutherans. For them, salvation came through the church, through its established traditions and rituals. Morality? That was the church's business, not the government's. Their core belief when it came to the state was super simple. Just leave us alone. And the clash between these two groups becomes crystal clear when you lay it out like this. For Pietists, sin was all about impure behavior, like drinking, and the state was a tool to stop it. For liturgicals, sin was heresy, disobeying the church, and the state had absolutely no role to play. These weren't just little disagreements, right? These were completely incompatible visions for what America should be. So, how did this religious war actually map onto the political system? Well, it created two parties that were basically perfect mirrors of these opposing worldviews. The Republican Party, that became the natural home for the Pietists. They were known as the Party of Great Moral Ideas, and they wanted to use government power not just to enforce morality, but also to intervene in the economy with things like tariffs and subsidies. The Democratic Party, meanwhile, became the Party of Personal Liberty. They were the home of the liturgicals, and they fought for minimal government both in your personal life and in the economy. Okay, now this is where the political genius really comes in, and this part is fascinating. Party leaders brilliantly connected these very local, very personal moral fights to these big, complicated national economic policies. So Republicans would tell their voters, hey, if the government is strong enough to save souls by banning liquor, then it's strong enough to save your jobs with tariffs. And the Democrats, they'd tell their voters, you see those same busybodies trying to take away your Sunday beer? They're also the ones trying to tax you to enrich their business cronies. This made abstract economics feel incredibly, deeply personal. Okay, so that's the theory. It sounds compelling, right? But is there any hard evidence to back it up? Well, let's take a look at the data, because the numbers, they're pretty staggering. This quote from the source material really gets right to the heart of it. For a long, long time, historians kept looking for economic reasons to explain voting patterns, but they were just looking in the wrong place. The real, predictable driver behind it all was this ethno-religious divide. Just take a look at these numbers from the Midwest. You don't even need to read every single line, just kind of scan from the top of the list to the bottom. Up at the top, you've got the liturgical Catholic groups, Polish, Irish, German Catholics, and they are voting overwhelmingly Democratic. We're talking 80 to 95%. Now, as you move down that list through all the different Protestant groups, the vote becomes less and less democratic until you hit the most pietist groups way down at the bottom, like the Swedish Lutherans and the Free Will Baptists, who barely voted Democratic at all. I mean, the correlation is just undeniable. And listen, this was not some kind of immigrant versus native-born issue. Not at all. This chart makes that crystal clear. Both Polish Catholics and Swedish Lutherans were immigrant groups, right? But one group voted almost unanimously for the Party of Personal Liberty, while the other voted overwhelmingly against it. The dividing line wasn't their language or what country they came from, it was their religious worldview. And let me just put one final, really sharp point on this. In Chicago, back in 1888, the statistical correlation between the percentage of Catholics living in a neighborhood and how that neighborhood voted Democrat was positive 0.90. Now, for anyone who doesn't do stats, a perfect correlation is 1.0. This means you could predict a neighborhood's vote with stunning accuracy just by knowing its religious makeup. It's wild. So there you have it, this incredibly stable yet fiercely divided political system that just hummed along for decades. But by the 1890s, the ground was starting to shift. The stage was being set for a political earthquake that was about to wipe this entire world away. For over 20 years, from 1874 on, politics was a total nail-biter. Control of the government was razor thin. Republicans actually won the presidency twice without even winning the popular vote. But the overall trend was clear. The Democrats were slowly, painstakingly gaining ground. And it all culminated in Grover Cleveland's landslide victory in 1892. And with that 1892 victory, the Democrats controlled everything: the presidency, the House, the Senate, for the first time since before the Civil War. The Party of Personal Liberty, minimal government, and free trade, it looked like it was right on the brink of becoming America's permanent majority party. It seemed like the pietist dream of a government-enforced moral order was just fading away. And then, just like that, in the blink of an eye, it was all over. A single event, a single election, didn't just defeat the Democratic Party. It completely shattered the political universe that had defined America for a whole generation. So that leaves us with one final massive question. What was this cataclysmic event of 1896? What happened that not only destroyed the Democratic Party's momentum, but completely erased this pietist versus liturgical political system, paving the way for the rise of big government, statism, in the 20th century? What on earth happened?